Midjourney's new video model looks incredibly realistic, but how does it stack up against the competition? We're putting Kling and Midjourney head to head using the same input images across a range of scenarios to push both to their limits. We'll compare outputs, we'll test all the features, we'll break down the pricing, as well as looking at censorship, seeing what kind of images you can truly create. We'll even talk about speed and community, and everything else that matters in selecting an AI video generator. Let's find out which one truly leads the pack. Now, I've pushed both of these video generators to their absolute limits and tested them across some of the most challenging situations that AI video has to offer. First up is we're testing an image taken from Flux, which is that of a female face, and we're observing how natural the expressions are of a woman. So on the left, we have Midjourney, on the right, we'll have Kling, and I'll leave these in the same place all the way through this comparison. I'm also going to play the videos forwards and then backwards and then forwards again, so you can really see how well they perform. This also helps us pick up on unusual pieces of movement. So if we're comparing these two, what you can notice is that they both perform very well. Now, what is interesting is we got a lot more movement coming out of Midjourney, and it maintains perfect consistency in this entire situation. Kling feels a little bit more wooden. Now, I would definitely give this first round to Midjourney. Of course, let me know in the comments if you agree with my opinion. Next up is complex dynamic movement. And for this example, we're going to be looking at a roller skater. And the reason I selected this type of movement is because it's incredibly complex. It's extremely difficult to get it to look natural because of the very quick and fluid motions of a roller skater. Let's see how they get on with that. And they're off. So on the left, we have Midjourney. On the right, we are having Kling. Now, I must say that they both handle this pretty well. The biggest problem is that Kling makes it look like she's riding a skateboard. It does not recognize that she's actually on a pair of roller skates. Now, the motion is certainly crisper in Midjourney. However, there is some morphing going on in her face. You can see that facial features blending into one another. And this is an example where Kling outputs a much higher resolution. Now, the low resolution in Midjourney can lead to details becoming morphed and blended together. So this one, I would say it's much closer. I think certainly Kling loses a few points for turning her into a skateboarder, but it does have better coherence within the video. Now, some of the most challenging things for AI video to generate is complex action. Some of the boxing videos I've seen before from these AI video generators are absolutely hilarious. So let's put this to the test. We're using this cinematic boxing shot. Now, for all of these tests, just to let you know, I submitted them without any video prompts. This is because it allows the video generators to decide what type of movement is most appropriate for the scene. So on the left, we have Midjourney. On the right, we have Kling. Now, we get much faster movement coming out of Midjourney, and there is a lot of morphing going on inside of Kling. You can see that the shapes of these men's fists change as they punch each other. Whereas with Midjourney, the motion is much more natural, that it really feels like they're engaging in some sparring. In this round, I would have to give it to Midjourney. Next up, we are looking at using weapons. Now, this adds a further level of complexity for the AIs to examine. We're going to be using this still shot of a pair of samurai dueling in the crisp light in the winter. So we have snow falling, a very atmospheric shot here. And as you can see here, again, we have pretty poor morphing from Kling on the right-hand side. And there is some morphing also going on in Midjourney. However, the movement in Midjourney is certainly more crisp. I would say it sets a new bar for the level of a weaponry animation. And I particularly like how well it renders out the atmospheric effects. As you can see here, that Kling actually chose to completely remove the snow and dust falling across. You just get a small hint of it, but it's so much more atmospheric inside of Midjourney. And the other thing I'd love to draw your attention to in this example is just watch this man cross this light here. You can see that the rays are obscured when he crosses the light source, and that does not happen in Kling at all. Though Kling does have some nice smoke going behind these fencing here. So this for me is a clear winner on Midjourney. It has better motion, it has better clarity of motion, the environmental factors are well animated into the scene with the light sources and the ambient snow or dust falling very atmospherically. Now, another type of dynamic movement that's been a real obstacle for AI video is dance. to move the body in a dancing way. So I challenged Midjourney and Kling to animate this image of a street dancer. Now, we can see they both handle this pretty well. I'm particularly impressed with Kling and its very fluid movements. Now, what I do like about Midjourney is the staccato nature of her movements, that it does feel like there is some real rhythm in there. And also, if you do pause at different moments, you can see a lot of morphing. Like here, her hands completely disappear in the Kling version. Just pausing it here, you can see her hands become pretty much like lobster claws. So for me, Midjourney is the winner in this situation. And also, it's just wonderful to see how the arms affect the shadows on her trousers here from Midjourney. Just look at this. You can see as the arms come across the trousers, it obscures them from the light and adds in a new shadow. And if you compare that to Kling, you can see that Kling does not have this greater understanding of light sources. And as she moves her arms into the light, it does not obscure the shadows. And this is the small details that bring such realism to the work in Midjourney. Now we're really going to take things up a notch, because another use case where our video generators suffer immensely is when we have many people moving inside of a shot, especially when they're small. So I have this image of a group of army soldiers walking together. Let's take a look at how this comes out. So Midjourney on the left, Kling on the right. Kling has them walking in very slow motion, which of course can be sped up. However, the issue is that it means that there's an extra step to your process. Now, one thing to pay attention to is, are there subtle differences in the way the men are walking, or are they all walking in a very similar manner? Now, I love some of these subtle head turns that we get from these characters in Midjourney. It certainly adds a sense of realism and authenticity. Now, you would also have to say, if you compare the original shot, we have this beautiful backlit scenario where the light is coming from behind the men. Now, just see how that is replicated in the videos. Midjourney does a much better job at replicating and continuing the aesthetic and the visual tone of the image. But again, I think one of the real pleasantries of Kling is the detail. You can see, just noticing between the facial shots of these two men, that Kling does add in much clearer, finer details, and that's owing to its higher resolution output. Now, another way to really test the abilities of these AI video models is to challenge them with complex surfaces. So here we have some iridescent materials on this woman, and we're going to be paying attention not only to the emotion, but also to how the light refracts off of her costume. Now, both of these, I would say, are doing a very good job. This is a situation where AI video is performing very well. Now, I would pull out a couple of details here. One is there's wonderful under-chin reflections going on here from Kling. You can see the gold refracting onto her jawline. It's absolutely beautiful. But we're also getting some lovely reflections on her cheek, and these glints from her earrings in Midjourney are delicious. And I also must say, the way that the lighting remains picking out a highlight in a similar position, even as she turns her head here, is exceptionally immersive and beautiful. Hair is incredibly fine. Every single strand of hair is such a detailed and difficult thing to render or draw out. And so I wanted to test the hair physics and give it a really challenging dancing image of a woman with her hair in mid-motion. So what we're really paying attention to here is how the AI video models handle these incredibly precise and fine hairs moving in a very unpredictable way. Now, what we can see is that both of the dancers are moving beautifully. I like the pirouette that the Kling dancer performs particularly. But if we take a look closely at the hair, you can see that both of them actually struggle with this. This is still something where there is room for improvement. Midjourney uses this more clumped approach of having the strands sort of clumped together, which is working fairly well, but it's not incredibly believable. Whereas Kling has quite a lot of morphing going on with the hair, which is just blurring it all together. There's also quite little movement generally with the hair in Kling. So I would say this is a real example of where we still have room for improvement in our AI video models. I think on balance, this is pretty much close to a draw. Maybe I would just give this one to Kling because I particularly like her dance moves in this one. Woo! Next up is animal photography. So this is taking a very detailed shot of a cat about to eat something that looks a little bit like Now, both of these are handling this very well. One thing you can do here is you can try to track individual hairs and see if they exist from the beginning of the shot to the end of the shot. And if you can see here in Kling, if you notice, there are hairs that disappear. Whereas in Midjourney, many more of the hairs remain from the start of the shot to the end of the shot. Now, another challenging element for AI video is working with low light conditions. And here I'm exploring using a disposable Polaroid style shot in very low light conditions, and we're seeing how it handles this really challenging lighting situation. Now, what is beautiful about both of these is they do a fairly good job at maintaining the aesthetic of the original image. I would have to say that Midjourney does just take that it does maintain a better consistency, whereas Kling really applies this quite heavy contrast and almost a HDR effect to all images that you upload, which can be extremely challenging. Now, I also find the default animation here on Midjourney to be much more engaging and much more cinematic, and also the expressions on her face. So for me, Midjourney is a clear winner in this example for keeping consistency with the original image and also for the beautiful camera work and acting from our young actress here. Next up, we have a drone shot, and this one is quite amusing because there was a little bit of a bug that happened here that I wanted to display to you. And that is because Kling refused to animate this for me. And I tried a couple of times and simply did not want to animate this image at all for some reason. But Midjourney gave us a nice flyover, and it managed to maintain the architectural consistency from the start to the finish of this piece. And if you are new here, I'm AI Samson, and on this channel we look to understand the possibilities of creativity in the AI era. Okay, next up we have complex light. So again, I challenged these to the limits by giving them these incredibly complicated neon glowing dancers. What we're looking for here is both dancing and also consistency with the light sources. So actually, this appears probably to be the most challenging task that I've set at all for these models, because in Kling, all of the dancers seem to collapse onto the floor and just melt nonsensically. And also, there is actually some difficulties in Midjourney as well, because if you look closely here, we lose this green man. So you can see he's here at the start of the shot, and then as we move through, he suddenly disappears. He's gone. So this really is an example of pushing these tools to their limits, and I think I would just give it to Midjourney because you have to look quite closely to see that it is losing a character, and most of the movement is pretty good, whereas Kling just descends into a mad mosh pit of lava. Next up, we have some underwater nature. We're taking it below the surface and looking at almost like an alien-like life form. So we are observing here, obviously, continuity as well as consistency to our original image. Wow, these are both stunning. I think this is one thing to mention, how beautiful these have both come out. And I love the way that they've animated the movement of these creatures. Though I have to say that Midjourney's movement is so much more engaging, lifelike, and organic. The way these fins, ears, I'm not sure what you'd even call them, are throbbing it's almost like a dance. We also get much more interesting camera movement as we pan round the subject. This gives us a beautiful sense of immersion. And the translucent nature of these tentacles as well is something truly to behold. So for me, Midjourney is the clear winner in this example. Next up is illustration. And here we're going to be looking at taking a different type of medium and testing it out in both of these options. Now, this is really a very different type of animation. Now, first of all, I'd have to say that both of these perform pretty well. I would say that the Kling animation feels a little bit more staccato and limited. However, there is a beautiful sense of aesthetic, stylized consistency between these two. I would say that a really good detail here that Midjourney has performed is if you just track the eyes here, you can see that they're subtly visible, which gives us more connection to the protagonist, whereas in Kling, they're pretty much obscured the whole time, and it limits our connection to the character. AI creators are no longer a novelty. They're here, and they're growing fast. FanView is one of the first platforms built specifically for that shift. It's designed for AI-first influencers and digital personas, people building characters that live online. I recommend it inside my AI influencer course because it does exactly what it needs to. You can publish content, build a paid audience, and start monetizing the character you've created, all in one handy place. Whether you're experimenting with an AI model, running a virtual coach, or building something more niche or strange, FanView gives you a clean, functional setup to test and grow. It's straightforward, stable, built for this exact use case. The link's in the description below. And a big thanks to FanView for supporting this segment of the video. Now back to today's featured film. Now, of course, animation is just one metric to track our AI video generators. Let's compare some of the other important factors. Now, we'll start with ease of use. Midjourney wins on simplicity and speed of use. It's plug and play. Anyone can jump in and animate an image in seconds. And the learning curve is virtually zero, which is absolutely beautiful. We can even do a quick demonstration of exactly how that works. All you have to do is take any image that you have, and you can simply click animate down here, and then choose whether you want low or high motion. And then you're off to the races. It just takes seconds to get started with this. Whereas Kling is much more of a multifaceted beast, shall we say. It's slightly more cumbersome and difficult to navigate. With Kling, there is a simplistic way to approach this. You can simply come to their video model, upload an image with their drag and drop box. Let's just put a slide in for now. And then you can go ahead and generate straight away. But the difference here is there are a lot of options that you can be aware of. Things like choosing the video model. You can be working with a text to video option. You can be working with multi-elements, which allows you to combine different references. You can be writing a complex prompt. You can be adding an end frame. You can be selecting the exact amount of motion control. So Kling has taken a completely different approach here, which is giving you a whole host of different features. Now, this does give you potentially a lot more control over the situation, but where I think it falls down is it starts to completely overcomplicate the process. So Kling empowers you with features. Well, Midjourney doesn't offer these, but it empowers you with ease of use. The trade-off is you must invest time to master those tools. For a beginner or casual creator, Midjourney is certainly the best option. Now, if you are a professional or power user or you have very specific needs, Kling can ultimately produce more tailored high-end results once you know how to drive it. And one specifically that I think is particularly attractive is the end frame option, because it really lets you define how a video starts and exactly how it ends. And combining that with especially using flux context as your image model gives you a whole host of possibilities. And that's because flux context allows you to prompt an image to change it. So you can keep everything consistent in an image, but just change the action or the situation. This gives us a whole load of control. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is that not all the Kling models have all of the features. So this massively overcomplicates things as well. For example, 2.1 does not offer the use of an end frame, and this is where things get much more complicated. So for ease of use and user experience, I highly recommend Midjourney. Now let's take a look at pricing and value. Midjourney is a more budget-friendly option for most users. It's much more economical, and with just a $10 entry subscription, you can start generating videos. Now in Midjourney, these cost about 8 times as much to make a video as it does to make an image. But the best thing about Midjourney is currently they're offering a $60 unlimited video plan. Now the caveat here is that this is unlimited slow mode, so they take a little while to generate, but this is, I think, the best value video plan out there. However, this might change. We don't know exactly whether they will allow that to continue indefinitely. Now, Kling is objectively more expensive, but still very good value compared to other video generators in the market, especially if you compare this to VO3 or Runway. It has a credit system which you can burn through very quickly. And essentially, if you're using the new 2.1 model, it will cost you 35 credits for a 5-second video. So you can see that for $5, you can get 330 credits. So that means that you spend about 10 cents per second, or you get about 10 videos per $5. So it's pretty expensive way to create video, and there is no unlimited plan available. So certainly for pricing, I think Midjourney is the best option. Now, as for speed, I think Midjourney generates it much faster than Kling. The other thing that's particularly interesting is that every time you generate with Midjourney, you get 4 options. So you're getting 4 videos outputted at once. Whereas with Kling, you just get one, and it can take up to 5 minutes to get your video out. I've also found Kling to be very variable in how long it takes to create a video, which I imagine is due to server load. Now, I think Midjourney certainly wins on speed. It feels more responsive, you get more options, and it's generally more consistent in its waiting times. Now, as for feature breadth, Kling is the clear winner in this instance, and it's hard to beat. It has the options of text to video, first to last frame control, multiple reference images, motion brush, higher resolution, and it's akin to a semi-professional tool. Midjourney is intentionally limited in features right now, but what I love is that Midjourney is a best-in-class image generator as well. So it gives you the wonderful ability to remain in one tool for more of your creative process. I also find the design of Midjourney to be much more enjoyable to use. Now, the other big instance that we have to name is sound. Currently, Midjourney has 0 sound features. So with this, we're talking about generating audio effects, sound effects, music, or even speech in our videos. Now, this is obviously where Google Veo 3 has blown everything out of the water recently with its incredibly lifelike vlog and speech-directed videos. Now, Kling does have a feature where it is generating audio for your clips, and it works fairly well for situations with sound effects, but it doesn't have anywhere near the same speech creation capabilities as Google Veo 3. There is also built-in lip sync inside of Kling, which allows you to upload audio files and have them lip sync to your characters. So you can have a speech workflow inside of Kling, and that is not possible in Midjourney. Now, as for censorship, both of these platforms are pretty heavily censored, but Midjourney is currently unbelievably difficult about anything that could be even remotely deemed adult or violent in any way. So if you do want to create anything that has any sort of sense of scariness or horror or even a sensual nature, Midjourney will reject your videos straight out. Okay, let's move on to community and support. Midjourney has an unparalleled community and support network. It's absolutely an incredible place to be. You will never feel alone using it, and inspiration is everywhere. In the main Midjourney website, you can simply come to chat on the left-hand side, and there's a lot of interesting conversations going on. You'll find people debating about prompt craft and also exploring a daily theme. It's a vibrant ecosystem, and Midjourney truly makes the most of communicating with their community, and I highly appreciate their ethos and their appreciation of their users. They even released a Midjourney magazine, which I previously bought, that was very interesting to see the artwork of other Midjourney creators put together in one collection. Now, Kling's community is smaller but passionate. The other thing to be aware of is Kling is a Chinese company, so it has a strong cultural influence from China in the way that the product is set up. And I think that comes through as the philosophy, the identity, or even the soul, you might say, of the software. So which one to choose? Well, if you're an artist or hobbyist who loves Midjourney's image style, enjoys creating images in Midjourney, and wants to create the most consistent videos to your images as possible, Midjourney version 1 video is perfect for you. It keeps you in the same workflow you know and love, with a beautifully created product that has a fantastic community and excellent user experience. It's highly affordable to play with, and it gives you beautiful animations that are incredibly realistic, especially for complex and dynamic movements. Now, if you are a filmmaker, animator, content creator who is looking for the most feature-rich option with unparalleled control, then Kling is probably your best bet. Now, the best things about Kling are its higher resolution and its greater ability to give you control in different situations. Now, of course, Kling is more expensive, and I would say that the user experience and the interface is a little bit of a nightmare to get around. Now, I think that the Midjourney $60 a month unlimited plan is a true gift to creators. and it lets you truly experiment and be a lot more creative with your works. It also runs a hell of a lot faster and gives you 4 options every time you generate an video. And this gives us a lot more creative freedom and speed of iteration. Now, I think often in these situations that the best is not one or the other. The best depends, firstly, on your context. And secondly, I think one of the greatest approaches is to use both in unison. And there are a few different ways that you can even consider doing this. One is you can even switch between the 2 models. So you can use the last frame of a video from Midjourney as the first frame for a video inside of Kling. Now, you might want to be using this if you have very specific movements that you need to get accurately right. They're not mutually exclusive, and I think all of the AI video models have their own personalities, their own quirks, their own strengths and weaknesses. For example, the VO3 strength is undoubtedly the incredible speech synthesis with video. So the great balancing acts between Kling and Midjourney is creativity over convenience, control over realism. Midjourney is the imaginative artist who's there to guide you aesthetically through, whereas Kling is more of a serious, structured, orchestrated director who's giving you every possible tool under the sun. Who wins? In my view, the creator wins. Having both of these tools at your disposal means you can achieve things that were pure science fiction just a couple of years ago. So whether you choose Midjourney or Kling, we're all benefiting from this rapid evolution of the technology. And the best way to find your winner is to experiment with all of these. So I will pop the links to both of these in the description below, and do feel free to check out the examples that I created for this video. You can get them for free in the link below. Now, if you enjoyed this video, do feel free to check out this one next, which will showcase some of the unusual ways that you can use ChatGPT for image editing. There are some really unique possibilities in there. Anyway, I want to say thank you very deeply for watching the whole video. Thank you for being here. It's your support that makes this channel possible. And if you did enjoy it, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And most of all, I want to wish you a delightful day.